Ahí está abajo, abajo. Mátalo, mátalo. ¡Sobre,
December 17th, 2024, officers Juan Carlos and Eric were ambushed while on patrol. The violent encounter was captured on camera, ending in a tragic gunfight that no one expected, as this new video of Mexican cartel encounters goes viral. November 9th, 2024, a video now circulating captures the moments before a brazen attack left 10 people dead and 13 injured at Los Cantaritos Bar in Queretaro. Watching this footage, one can't help but sense the chaos that erupts in mere seconds. As this starts, we can see the DJ do his thing. It looks like a normal Saturday night at the club, until the mood changes into a nightmare. A gray pickup truck suddenly stops outside the bar, and 4 men get out. 2 of them get inside, while the other 2 guard outside. Their target was a specific table, but the chilling precision makes it clear that this was no random act. The gunfire might have been less than a minute, but it was enough to be devastating. There are patrons in here who had just become casualties of a brutal fight between rival drug cartels. Authorities were quick to identify one victim as Fernando Gonzalez Nunez, also known as La Flaca, a suspected member of Jalisco New Generation cartel. Investigators believe that this attack was a calculated one in retaliation, part of a turf war between the CJ&G and Santa Rosa de Lima. The struggle for dominance over these drug routes and territory has turned this peaceful region into a battleground. Queretaro was historically a place of safety in Mexico, but now has been thrusted into the spotlight of violence. The attack had shattered this illusion of peace, and now locals are living in fear and uncertainty. The footage from these cameras captures the cold efficiency of the hitmen, and their confidence shows that they're not afraid of the authorities. The cops have been trying to piece the puzzle together. Over 12 raids have been conducted across Queretaro and neighboring Corregidora, resulting in the arrest of 2 suspects and the issuance of an arrest warrant for a third. More than 60 interviews have been conducted, and investigators have gone over 500 hours of surveillance footage. Despite all these efforts, the larger battle remains far from over. The attack has drawn national attention, with President Claudia Sheinbaum pledging military support to improve Queretaro's security. But even with promises of federal intervention, we have a big problem here. October 24th, 2024, town of Tecpan de Galeana in Guerrero, Mexico, became the center of this violent confrontation. The video captures the sheer danger both law enforcement and civilians were in. The violence kicks off at 5 a.m. with a convoy of at least 17 vehicles, which included 2 armored trucks known as Monstruos, entered Tecpan de Galeana via the Acapulco-Zihuatanejo highway. This heavily armed group, bearing the initials G&G, was reportedly heading towards the local police station. When they got there, they launched an assault, killing 2 municipal police officers and leaving 4 others injured. To stop the response of authorities, the assailants had blocked off the highway with rocks and set a trailer ablaze at one of the town's entrances. Residents, awakened by the commotion, witnessed the movement of armed men through their windows, capturing the terror of the moment in hushed, fearful voices. By 11 a.m., state authorities announced they regained control. However, less than 2 hours later, gunfire resumed, this time involving federal forces. Journalists on the scene were caught in the crossfire, showing us just how unpredictable the attacks were. The Mexican Secretariat of National Defense reported that the confrontations resulted in the deaths of 14 gunmen, believed to be members of the invading cartel, and the arrest of 11 individuals. Amongst the deceased were individuals identified as Guatemalan nationals, highlighting the transnational dimensions of cartel operations. Authorities seized 16 vehicles, including 3 with improvised armor, 15 long firearms, a Barrett rifle, a mini machine gun, various cartridges, and homemade explosives.
Cecilio Olea Cruz y Johnny Martínez Lino. Además, otros 4 resultaron heridos.
This violent attack is believed to be part of a territorial dispute between the local criminal group known as Los Granados and an invading faction, possibly the Gente Nueva cartel. The day before that attack, it was said that there were heavily armed individuals issuing threats against a regional criminal leader known as Chava Granados, who had been implicated in previous violent incidents, including the 2023 ambush that resulted in the deaths of police officers in Coyuco de Benitez.
en el que viajaba el líder criminal resultó con lesiones. Él forma parte de la policía municipal y se encuentra...
July 2024. In a chilling video that shows the frightening reach of the cartel, we see the ambush and assassination of a criminal leader immediately after his release from the Aquiles Queretaro prison in Chihuahua, Mexico. The details are truly horrifying as everything happened really fast.
El criminal resultó con lesiones. Él forma parte de la policía municipal y se encuentra a disposición de la Fiscalía General del Estado.
The footage captures the moment when assailants intercept the vehicle carrying the recently freed individual, leading to a deadly confrontation. The victim, identified as a high-ranking member of the notorious La Línea cartel, had just exited the penitentiary when his convoy was attacked. La Línea, known as the armed wing of the Juarez cartel, has been involved in numerous violent incidents across the region. Now, this brazen attack shows the dangerous nature of cartel rivalries and the extent to which these organizations will go to eliminate their adversaries. The ambush resulted in the death of the cartel leader and one of his companions. Another individual, allegedly part of the attacking group, sustained injuries during the crossfire. The driver of the vehicle, a municipal police officer, survived with injuries and was taken into custody by the state's attorney general's office. Additionally, state police have arrested an individual named Luis Fernando in connection with the incident. This event isn't isolated, but rather indicative of a broader pattern of violence associated with La Línea. In previous years, the cartel has been linked to various criminal activities, including drug trafficking and violent confrontations with rival groups. Their influence extends across several regions, with a significant presence in Chihuahua. The Aquiles Cerdán prison itself has a history marred by violence. Named after a prominent figure in the Mexican Revolution, the facility has witnessed riots and clashes amongst inmates, often attributed to gang rivalries spilling over from the streets. Calculated nature of the attack, executed in broad daylight, reflects the audacity of these criminal organizations and their willingness to confront law enforcement directly. It also raises concerns about the potential infiltration of police forces by cartel members, as evidenced by the involvement of a municipal police officer in the incident. February 2024, a disturbing video surfaced from Guerrero, Mexico, showing the confrontation between La Familia Michoacana and Los Tlacos. This footage, reportedly released by La Familia Michoacana, will send chills down your spine as it shows the deadly reality of cartel conflicts in the region. It starts with heavily armed men, identified as members of La Familia Michoacana, launching an assault on a group known as Los Tlacos. The ambush occurred near Buena Vista, community in Guerrero's mountainous area. Here we can see some individuals, presumably from Los Tlacos, seen taking cover beside a vehicle, which is later set ablaze by the attackers. The recording, lasting about 2 minutes, shows numerous armed men gathered in a nearby camp before the attack, which goes to show how organized these guys actually are. This incident is part of a series of clashes between La Familia and Los Tlacos. The two groups have been at each other's throats over lucrative territories and drug trade in Guerrero. The rivalry's getting worse, leading to numerous deaths and escalating violence. In a very gruesome episode, followed by an attack by La Familia Michoacana, the charred remains of 9 individuals were discovered in a burned vehicle at the entrance of Buena Vista de los Hurtados. The strategic use of technology in these conflicts is alarming. Reports indicate that La Familia Michoacana has employed drones to carry out attacks, demonstrating a shift towards more sophisticated and deadly methods. In one such attack in Acatlan, Eliodoro Castillo, many drones were used to target adversaries, resulting in significant casualties and terror amongst local populations. These drones were also responsible for cutting out electricity in the area some months ago. Now, the implications of these violent encounters are serious, most especially as the local communities are caught in the crossfire, facing threats every day. October 2024, we get a glimpse into the increasing violence along the U.S.-Mexico border with footage from a surveillance aircraft from the Texas Department of Public Safety. The video shows rival factions of the Gulf Cartel engaged in a fierce gun battle mere steps from the Rio Grande, directly across from Donna, Texas. The thermal imagery reveals heavily armed individuals exchanging relentless gunfire. This confrontation, occurring less than a mile from U.S. soil, emphasizes the immediate danger such cartel conflicts pose to border communities. Lieutenant Christopher Olivares of Texas DPS emphasized the danger, noting the stray bullets from these violent encounters could easily cross into American territory, endangering innocent lives. The Gulf Cartel, which is a dominant criminal organization in northeastern Mexico, has splintered into competing factions, notably the Scorpions and the Metros. These groups are locked in a brutal struggle for control over lucrative smuggling routes that facilitate the trafficking of drugs and undocumented migrants in the U.S. The recent firefight near the Rio Grande is a result of this internal power struggle, with each faction fighting for dominance in the highly profitable drug trade. The closeness of these violent clashes to the U.S. border has understandably alarmed residents in adjacent Texan communities. While the gunfight occurred on Mexican soil, the potential for violence to spill over into the U.S. is a pressing concern. The use of military-grade weaponry by cartel members further worsens the threat, as high-caliber firearms increase the risk of stray bullets reaching American towns and endangering civilians. Despite the intensifying violence just across the border, recent FBI statistics suggest that Texan border communities remain relatively safe from violent crime. However, the persistent threat posed by cartel activities necessitates unwavering vigilance from both law enforcement and local residents. Texas DPS continues to monitor these developments closely, utilizing advanced surveillance technology to track cartel movements, predict potential threats to public safety. July 24th, 2024. An ex-soldier's home in Totolac, Tlaxcala, Mexico, became the target of a shocking attack by four armed men, identified as members of the criminal gang Los Barba. Every bit of the encounter, which was caught on camera, is extremely disturbing. The surveillance footage reveals the assailants arriving at the residence. However, the ex-soldier, drawing upon his military training, quickly retaliated, discharging his firearm in self-defense. His prompt response resulted in one assailant, 19-year-old Jonathan, being fatally hit, and he collapsed on the pavement as his accomplices fled the scene. The aftermath of the confrontation was equally distressing. Authorities and the victim's family arrived shortly thereafter, overcome with grief. Jonathan's father issued threats against the ex-soldier, vowing retribution for his son's death. Ignoring police protocols, the family hastily transported Jonathan's body in a red truck, seeking urgent medical attention. Tragically, reports indicate that Jonathan succumbed to his injuries before reaching the hospital. This incident sheds light on the audacity of criminal organizations like Los Barba, known for their involvement in drug trafficking, kidnappings, and extortion. Their willingness to confront a trained ex-military individual in his own home in broad daylight tells of a disturbing increase in their operations. However, while the ex-soldier's decisive action in neutralizing one threat may have prevented further immediate harm, it also places him in a dangerous position. Public threats from Jonathan's family show the potential for ongoing cycles of violence and retaliation, a common repercussion in areas troubled by organized crime. Law enforcement agencies are now tasked with investigating this incident, addressing the threats made against the ex-soldier, and implementing measures to prevent retaliatory acts.
La tarde de este viernes 4 de octubre, elementos de la Marina realizaron un fuerte operativo de seguridad.
October 4th, 2024. A military helicopter spotted a suspicious vehicle and attempted to chase it. However, the chase ended in a way no one expected.
De acuerdo con videos divulgados en redes sociales, se aprecia que una unidad es perseguida desde un helicóptero a la que le disparan en varias ocasiones, y elementos, presuntamente de la Marina, llegan al lugar desde tierra.
The encounter began in the community of Chinitos, located in the municipality of Angostura. A military helicopter, part of an aerial and ground operation by the Mexican Navy, had identified a suspicious vehicle believed to be occupied by armed individuals. In a daring maneuver, the helicopter descended to a low altitude and initiated a pursuit of the vehicle along rural roads. The tension escalated shortly after as the helicopter opened fire, aiming to neutralize the perceived threat. However, the targeted vehicle, a white SUV with tinted windows, attempted to evade capture, but ultimately crashed into a roadside post, leading to the occupants fleeing the scene on foot, and unfortunately they have not yet been arrested. Now, this incident is part of a broader strategy by Mexican authorities to address the increase in violence attributed to organized crime in Sinaloa. The operation extended beyond Angostura, with military presence reported in neighboring areas such as Navolato and Mocorito. In these areas, authorities encountered roadblocks and tire puncturing devices known locally as as ponchayantas, deployed by criminal groups to stop law enforcement efforts. These tactics reveal the challenges faced by security forces in maintaining order and the lengths to which criminal organizations will go to protect their interests. Adding to the complexity of the situation are reports suggesting that one of the individuals targeted in this operation was Jorge Humberto Figueroa Benitez, alias L27, alleged to be a high-ranking security chief for Los Chapitos, a faction of the Sinaloa cartel. While these claims have circulated widely, official confirmation from authorities remains pending. The potential involvement of such a significant figure proves the high-risk nature of the operation and the volatile environment in which these confrontations occur. The deployment of military choppers in direct combat scenarios reflects a determination to assert control over regions controlled by cartels, but also raises concerns about the safety of civilians in these areas. In the wake of this operation, the Mexican government has reinforced its commitment to restoring order in Sinaloa. The arrival of an additional 590 National Guard troops in Culiacan supports the administration's determination to address the security challenges head-on. Governor Ruben Rocha Moya has expressed optimism that these measures will contribute to a reduction in violence, though he acknowledges that the journey toward lasting peace is ongoing. As these developments unfold, the citizens of Sinaloa are left to deal with the immediate realities of living amidst such conflicts. The presence of military operations, the sounds of gunfire, and the sight of helicopters overhead have become unsettling aspects of daily life in Sinaloa. January 10th, 2024, a fierce battle occurs in Dr. Cos, Nuevo León, between two notorious criminal organizations, the Northeast Cartel, Cartel del Noreste, and the Gulf Cartel, Cartel del Golfo. Although clashes like these are not unusual in Mexico, this particular one was troubling. The video shows armed men identified as cartel members in a fierce shootout, carry powerful weapons, and used armored vehicles called monstruos, which means monsters, made of homemade tanks reinforced with steel plates. These vehicles, similar to military gear, show how cartels kept increasing their weapon power. The footage shows a camouflaged truck, just like the one used by the Gulf Cartel in the earlier ambush on soldiers. The use of monstruos was especially troubling. These armored vehicles have mounted guns, allowing cartels to fight for longer periods. Their presence show a dangerous increase in the cartel's weapon power, raising concerns about how much these battles look like wars. According to reports, 2 people inside one of these armored vehicles died during the fight. This was part of a territorial dispute between the Gulf Cartel's armed group, Grupo Escorpión, and the Northeast Cartel's group, La Tropa del Inferno, meaning the troop from hell. Both cartels wanted control over smuggling routes and local businesses. In addition to that, the Jalisco New Generation cartel also added to the chaos by trying to expand into Tamaulipas, making the conflict even worse. And as a result, the area is very dangerous, with frequent fights, putting all involved cartel members as well as civilians at risk. After the exchange of gunfire, cartel members were seen walking openly in the town center, posing in front of colorful letters in the main square. This shows you how confident they are, and make it clear how hard it is for authorities to control them. Such public displays were meant to scare both locals and rival cartels. The fight in Dr. Cos was not unusual, but part of this ongoing violence in the region. Nuevo León's location near the U.S. border made it an important area for drug smuggling, leading to constant turf war and increased violence that hurt local communities. To handle the crisis, Mexican authorities have sent soldiers and federal police to the region, but the cartel's power and advanced weaponry have made it a hard place to restore peace. March 24th, 2024, a deadly confrontation unfolded at a gas station in the La Lima neighborhood of Culiacan, Sinaloa. Surveillance captures the brief yet intense encounter between cartel henchmen and members of the National Guard in a show of force that'll make you cringe in shock. At approximately 3:02 a.m., 2 pickup trucks arrive at that gas station. A man begins refueling, unaware of the imminent danger. Less than 2 minutes later, a National Guard patrol vehicle enters the scene. 3 officers exit, weapons drawn, drawn and approached the occupants of the truck. The situation escalates rapidly as the suspects attempted to flee, prompting a firefight that lasted a mere 10 seconds. Tragically, during this exchange, 25-year-old National Guard Alejandro Juarez from Chihuahua sustained a fatal gunshot wound to the head. Another officer was injured and fell to the ground seeking cover. The assailants managed to escape, leaving behind a scene of chaos and loss. Reinforcements arrived shortly after, but they too were met with gunfire, forcing them to take cover and assess the volatile situation. Quick and violent nature of the attack was a typical example of the significant risks faced by security forces combating organized crime in Mexico daily. The aftermath of the incident was marked by grief and a renewed commitment to justice. The federal government confirmed the arrest of 3 individuals suspected of involvement in the shooting. Culiacan, the capital of Sinaloa, has long been a focal point in Mexico's struggle against powerful drug cartels. The city's notorious for being a stronghold of the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most influential and violent criminal organizations in the country. Presence of such groups has led to frequent confrontations with law enforcement, often resulting in casualties on both sides, posing significant risks to civilians. Moreover, the pervasive influence of cartels within local communities complicates efforts to maintain order. Intimidation and corruption can undermine the effectiveness of security operations, as criminal organizations often exert control over local populations through fear and force. This environment creates a deadly landscape for officers.
Está abajo, abajo. Mátalo, sobre.
December 17th, 2024. Officers Juan Carlos and Eric were on routine patrol when they were attacked by the cartel. The attack caught on camera ended tragically with multiple casualties.
Está abajo. Mátalo. Sobre.
While on routine duty, 2 officers were ambushed by armed men, believed to be part of a local criminal group. The attackers fired without warning, and the 2 officers were killed in the gunfire. A video of the aftermath of the attack also went viral, showing the officers' patrol vehicle full of bullet holes. The scene was chaotic, with emergency responders trying to help and secure the area. A memorial service was held for Carlos and Eric, with family, colleagues, and residents coming together to honor the officers. Emotional tributes were given, and the local police vowed to continue their fight for justice and public safety. This attack is part of a troubling pattern in Guanajuato, where organized crime groups often target police. In fact, earlier in December 2024, 4 state police officers were killed in Uriangato, also in Guanajuato, in a similar attack. And these killings are all a strategy to spread fear and weaken communities by removing those who oppose them. When it comes to the government of Guanajuato's ongoing battle with powerful criminal groups, the job of law enforcement has become even more dangerous. Officers are often outnumbered and outgunned, creating a risky situation for those trying to keep people safe. The state government has, however, promised to help law enforcement by improving equipment, training, and teamwork amongst security forces. Nevertheless, it's unclear if these efforts will be enough to counter the growing power of organized crime. September 9th, 2024. Culiacan, Sinaloa was shaken by a violent clash that left the city in fear. In fact, the encounter, which was caught on camera, would be too horrific to believe. The violence started at 5:30 a.m. in the La Campiña neighborhood in the eastern part of the city. Social media videos showed up to 20 pickup trucks, many of them new models, speeding through the streets. The military quickly responded, engaging in a shootout with the attackers. The fighting spread south to the Costa Rica area, creating panic amongst residents. What began in one part of the city would soon reach rural areas, leaving people worried and unsafe. To control the situation, the state governor had announced reinforcements from the national defense. While the number of additional troops wasn't shared, 2 reconnaissance planes and an armed chopper arrived at Culiacan's airport to help. In the end, the gunfire and high-speed chase saw a soldier and civilian killed. 3 others, including another soldier, were also injured. In addition to that, authorities were able to arrest 1 person and seize 16 vehicles during that chaos. Despite these efforts, tensions remained high, and residents were left scared and uncertain about what might happen next. Interestingly, though, this violence is reported to be the result of a bigger fight within the Sinaloa cartel that's been ongoing for months. You see, after U.S. authorities arrested Ismael El Mayo Zambada Garcia, a power struggle broke out between Los Chapitos, the sons of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, and supporters of El Mayo. These internal battles have led to many deaths, disappearances, and fear throughout the area. Schools have been shut down, alongside numerous services that have been put on hold, making daily life even harder for people living here.